Hey guys, Anthony, 4x4 Diesel. Just wanted to, well, this won't be a quick video. This is removing the rear axles on a Prado. So this is a Prado 120, 150 be much the same. Let's go ahead and tell you what we've done already to make a little head start. Obviously we've jacked it up, taken off the wheels. We've taken off the rear calipers by the two main mounting bolts at the back there. I don't know if you can see that, one there. You figure it out. There's the caliper. If you can't figure out the basics kind of thing, then you shouldn't be doing it, right? So two bolts that hold the caliper, you have to take the brake line out of that little bracket there. So quickly open the brake line with your pipe spanner, and that one was really tight, so we had to put a set of vice grips on it as well to help hold it, because we're just going to bend this backing plate and maybe snap that weld there. It looks all right, but we're careful of that. So we got that brake line disconnected to take that hose out of that hole there, and then just pop it back together so you don't lose all your fluid, and obviously clean up the fluid because it'll, you know, eat away at paint and stuff like that. So we've got that brake line out of there, the rear brake line. We've removed the rear caliper, we've taken the rear rotor off, and we've taken the ABS sensor out, so that's safely tucked over there out of the way. That normally goes obviously in the hole at the front of the axle where that's actually the bearing assembly there. So that's all that, so we can't break that. The four nuts here that retain the axle assembly into the diff housing, we have cracked those loose. So it's kind of the hard part now, if you know what I mean, because we've got to take all these springs and clips and stuff off. We can see you've got limited access. See, that's your clip in behind there. Yeah, that's your axle in behind the axle. How much fun is that, eh guys? You loving that or what, right? That's where your clips are, hidden in behind there. And you have to get those off and on. You can't take the axle out, because this is all the assembly, the bearings all pressed together. It's got to come out this way. It's a really fun job, I can assure you. I haven't done many of them, and I don't really want to do one ever again, which is why I'm going to do this video and try and show you, or at least direct you to the right parts you need to replace, and so that you can have a look at it. So this is the driver's side of the vehicle. So just having a look at the spring orientation, the one that goes to the rear is the one that goes over the top. Not that it matters, the one to the right goes underneath. What do we got? The handbrake cable comes in. The whole problem with this is, see this handbrake cable here, that comes in from the rest of the vehicle, and that is bolted in underneath all these shoes, so we can't actually pull we can pull it out far enough. The axles can come out of the center diff area enough to get the diff out. If you had, say, a pinion seal and you need to remove the diff, but if you need to get the whole axle out to change the bearing, this is what's got to happen, right? So we've got to get all these shoes off. So those clips, there's probably some springs. Let's go down to the bottom and have a look which way the adjuster is. May or may not be right, because it may or may not have been off before, on or off before. So that spring at the bottom, that's a spring that obviously needs to be refitted. And that adjuster there, obviously all the parts should be cleaned up. The handbrake assembly lever seems to be at this side. I don't know if you can see that in there, in behind the shoe there, right? As we go up, you'll probably see where it's riveted on. No, is it that side or not? Jeez, I can't really see myself, and I'm trying to roll with this camera and show you. It's shocking. There's another little plate in behind there with a spring on it. The spring's on the right hand side, that flat plate there. You can see that. That's to do with the handbrake setup. Look, you know, it is very difficult to explain how it all goes. This is the driver's side. We'll go and have a look at the passenger side. So over at the passenger side, same deal. Taking off the caliper, the brake line out of that little bracket there. The ABS sensor, the rear caliper assembly is over there out of the way at the moment. Plenty of pads left. And basically we're at the point we've got to get all these shoes and springs and assembly off out of the way, which doesn't look like fun. Now let's just have a look at the orientation. Excuse me. There you go, no edits. Okay, so we've got that flat plate in behind there, and the spring is toward the front. This is on the passenger side. That's that plate in behind, all that further down, yeah? See that short spring in there, right center of the picture now? These two top springs, the rear one's hooked over the outside and upside down with it poking up in the air. What else can I tell you? Yeah, those clips, no better to get to at this side, you know. That gap there, you're looking at around it's about a 10mm gap, but it varies. Right here where that piece is, it's a bit less. Very difficult to get into. There's no real way around it. Let's go and have a look underneath at the adjuster for which way it's facing. I'm not saying it's right or not, to be honest. I don't take any notice. I normally try and put things back the way they are. but it doesn't mean someone else hasn't had it off and put it on wrong before. And I know for a fact on this vehicle, other people have had it apart in the past. So we're going to set this camera up so you can hopefully watch and see how much fun it is to disassemble it, and we'll see how that goes. All right, are we organised? I don't know. Are we looking forward to it? Definitely not. And grab some tools. If we were organised, we would have had our tools. Tools of choice at the moment are the main ones at the moment. We're going for side cutters. So what we're going to do is try and get in. I'm going to take this top spring off first. Side cutters not to cut anything, just because they traditionally what we've used. I'm going to put this light down over here in the trade for doing brakes and stuff, because they're a really good grip. See how easy that was to get a good grip. So the first part we're taking off is the top spring to the right. We're just going to lay the parts down in the orientation. We take them off. So this is the passenger side. Okay. Same deal with the other one. Try and grab that with your nice grippy side cutters. These are Sid Chrome. They're very old, and we like some of the old tools. So you'll see in our workshop a lot of the old tools. It's the old trusty stuff you've been using for years. Okay. Going to get that spring out. There it is. Right. Okay. What's next? We're going to go underneath. Go and have a look underneath. See what we got there. There is a spring there. I reckon we leave that till later actually. Let's close off that adjuster. Probably going to help to have, it's not if that turns even, you know, because it's that covered in dirt and everything. Should have done that already. You know what, we won't worry about that. We just want to get it off. So often what works is along those pliers in that hole there. So problem I got is I've got this light here trying to put some light on the job for you, but it's not really helping me. So we've got to, if we get that hole there, that'll help. If we get that to there, and we can put your finger in behind to retain that pin so it doesn't push backwards, and hopefully this is one way you can try to do it. Doesn't always work. Another way, I'll just show you before I go ahead and get it done, is sometimes you get into the side here and grab that with your pens, your side cutters or your long nose pliers, and grab that flat plate and just go push it back like that, and then get it started on the turning. I don't really care what pops off and falls and whatever. Worry about how we're going to get it back on afterwards. Been there, done that before. It's never fun. I'm sure there's someone better at it than me. Show us your YouTube video. It's not about me just trying to help you so that you can, because you know, hourly rate, you don't want to be paying me to do this. Surely you want to have a crack at it yourself. Jeez, that is showing it's proving to be a bad example of how to do it or how not to do it. But how do I do this normally? This light here is in a real pain actually. But anyway, it's really hot. It's one of those old halogen lights, because the other light here, this one, it's good, but it's going to go flat, right? Okay. As you can see, fun and games. Fun and games. We're nearly at it. Grab that and turn it. Turn. No. Here we go. Okay, then we're going to try and grab that. Okay. You can try and get the pin out the back if you like, might be easier, but you've got a cover. I'm going to try and show you the order of these bits and pieces. So this is the passenger side, right? So you've got that cover over the top, then you've got the spring, then you've got this little flat plate with a hook that hooks into the brake shoe. Put that down on the right side. Now it's your job to remember this, guys, so when I can't remember how it goes back together, I'll come and see you. Then you can lower that shoe down. It's not going to come off yet, but take it off that brake adjuster, taking the brake adjuster out at the bottom, right, the one that we didn't back off in the end, right. Right, so there's the brake adjuster. Gonna sit that on the ground. Then you've got a spring here also. So I'm going to grab the side cutters for that. This spring at the back. Let me see, what can you see? Can you see what I'm doing? Yeah, I think you can see that. Look, simple stuff, we're just unhooking the spring. Simply said, but not simply done. Right, so I might even leave that there and start getting this other side out of the way, because sometimes that works better. Maybe not too, maybe I'll just persist a bit. Of course, you want to get a good enough grip to unhook it, but not a good enough grip that you cut it, of course. I don't know how we get those off normally, but it seems to want to stay there. So you know what, we're going to leave it for now. Go to this side. We'll take this flat plate out as well, okay? So that's that flat plate that I was trying to show you inside before. Right, this is why it's important if you go full driving, dust, mud and dirt, grinds these shoes down like sandpaper. You really need to put a lot of water in there and wash it out each service, after each day trip and each service, whatever, right? So that's the way that goes, orientation towards the front. This is the passenger side. Okay. Now this side, all that should be holding it is the same clip. So we'll spin the axle around to that hole. That one hole we've sort of got. The long nose pliers in there. Hey, this is just pulling it apart. You should see putting it back together. Right. Did that come off? No, I don't know. Sometimes when you push it, the pin pushes backwards as well. So I think we might have got it that time. No. Be close. Yeah, so you've got to keep your finger on that back of the pin. Come on. Okay. Be good if someone hold the light for me. No, that's right. Nobody here to do that. No bloke next to me to ask for a hand. Or how do you do this, or how do you do that? It's you need to know and figure it out all on your own, right? So same deal as the other side. A flat washer with that plate behind it that hooks onto the brake shoe, right? So I'm going to put that down that side. Right, now that shoe, I reckon there's not much holding that one now. These are both going to come out of place. Right, now you probably can't see it, but this is probably the first thing you put on that bottom spring, because it's the last thing to come off. Right, so we're just trying to unhook that bottom spring. It's still being a bit of a pain, so that's kind of good, because when you go to put it back together, you know it's not going to be a problem. So there's the left-hand shoe, and down a little bit, could be worth replacing. These do last ages, all depends. Like I said, see that? So that dust and dirt, that's the dirt, the sandpaper, and you can see the lines in there, massively wearing it down. So there's that one. Now to get this other side off, let me just make sure I got it in the picture a bit. Just going to adjust it down a little bit. Got the handbrake cable, right? So just put your side cutters through the spring, pull the spring pressure back a little bit, and then you can release that cable out there like that. So there's your shoe with that handbrake adjuster that obviously goes that way. That's that, whoops, we dropped it. There's that spring, right, the way it was. That's looking at it backwards, right? There's the spring hooked in there. So passenger side, right? That's what the passenger side should look like. So go and lay that down on the ground, ready for the nightmare job of putting it back together one day. Okay, so what we've got, the whole reason we had to pull that off is because I'm just going to take these pins out as well before, so we don't lose them. Right, one, and they are two different, right? I'll point that out as well. The rear one near the caliper on the passenger side is the angly one, and the front one is the straight one. Okay, so your best way to remember is lay it out. Lay it in the order that it came off as best as you can. Now, the whole reason we had to do that is okay. Remember we point out the handbrake cable that comes through. It's bolted in. See that 10mm bolt there? Two of them. We've got to undo those so we can withdraw that cable out the back of that backing plate as we pull the axle out, right? So, of course, that's what we're going to do next. I just wanted to show you that because that's the whole point, isn't it? To show you things. So we're going to go grab a 10mm. What's going to work quickest on that? I'm going to use a little pin chrome 10mm ratchet spanner, and hopefully, no, that's not going to work either. Going to get the quarter drive with the 10mm. Quarter drive ratchet. Quarter drive ratchet with a 10mm socket would be the go. Always like trying something different. Like I said, haven't done a lot of these, so I thought we'll try the 10mm on the ratchet spanner, but no, just stick with the quarter drive and the 10mm. Now, this is a bit of a test. Normally when we do a job like this, we are going to have the diff oil drained, but in this case I want to know how much oil is going to leak out if you pull the axles with the vehicle level. I don't think there's going to be much, if any. Might depend if we're changing the seals. I'm just not too sure where it sits. So anyway, we're going to pull this axle, and we will include both these axles in the video so that you know, for future reference for anyone. Right, so we've got both those two 10mm bolts out, so that cable, there's nothing holding it now, right? We're not going to, oh well, we probably can pull it out. I was going to say we'll pull it out as the axle comes out, but there you go, right? So there it is. That's the part you need to get out so that you can pull the whole axle assembly out. So we'll just tuck that over there, out of the way. As I said, we already cracked those 4 bolts at the back loose. I don't need to show you those. You can look underneath the back of your car. So one, just by hand undoing those 2 nuts. 2 of the 4, sorry. There it is, there's 2. Right, you know what nuts look like, whatever. Yeah, there'll be 2 more at the top. One's a bit tight, so I'm just going to grab a 17mm you need for those on the back there. I've cracked it loose, but it's obviously possibly a bit dirty or something because it's not coming out by hand yet, so we'll just give it a couple more swings on the spanner and hopefully get both of those out. Now you've got to be really careful putting these axles back in because each side of the diff you've got, it's kind of like an oil, I don't know what it's called, you know, you'd have to look at the book, but stop the oil splashing and travelling up the axle shafts too much. But it is just sort of clipped in position. So when you put your axle in, you really need to have it lifted up and the weight taken off where it goes. You need to look in the hole, see what you're doing. You need to have it lifted up so you can guide it in the hole without hitting these plates. Otherwise, you'll pop that plate out of position, right? So now, this should just pop out like that, right? It's going to make a bit of mess, but you get that. All right. Look at that, we've got a bit of oil leaking out. We weren't sure about that. How much? Well, the answer is not too much, but I'm going to show you in a sec. exactly what I'm trying to show you, okay? I'll go get a drain tray first for this mess we're making. And yes, we are making a mess. So give me a sec to sort that out. Won't be long. As I said, normally we'd always drain the axle, drain the diff oil, sorry. We're draining the axle, aren't we? I'll bring you in and show you what's going on. Okay. Okay, so I don't know if you're going to be able to see this, but we're going to try it, right? Okay, so there's the end of your axle. I said when you go to put the diff back in, if you look in there, look at that, you can see pretty well actually. I'm going to get in a bit closer. See, you got that plate there. I don't know if you can determine what's going on there, but there is a metal plate there. Let me have a look at myself for a minute so I can tell you what I'm explaining. Yep. Yeah, if you look in there, get the light in there as well, remember? The light and the camera, right? See that square sort of plate? It's round in the middle, square on the outside. That's just clipped in place. If you slide your axle in along the bottom and hit that, you'll pop it out of place, right? And you're going to have issues. So don't do that. We won't talk about those issues because let's just avoid it. That's why we're here trying to show you what's got to be done and not done, etc., etc. So that's one axle out, right? We're changing the axle bearings on this vehicle. That's what it's all about. The axle seal's not leaking. A little bit extra information before we cut this one. If you do get dirt and debris in here somehow, if this seal leaks, the bearing's not lubricated by oil on these vehicles, okay? Every vehicle's different, so if you thought it was lubricated by the diff oil, you're wrong. It's just your bearings in the center, your diff, cram wheel, pinion, and all that sort of thing, right? If that leaks, it goes through the bearing and it will wash the grease out of the bearing and you will need to replace it, right? Now, with this, there's an O-ring seal on the outside there, right? So you probably a wise idea to replace that. And you've also got a seal on the inside just there, right? And of course, you know, wise idea to replace that one as well. Bada boom, bada bing. There you go. I'll get this video happening again to pull the other axle out and obviously also to get it all back together. Thanks for watching so far. All right, okay, so we're on the driver's side now, 120 Prado, removing the axle. Now we will do a separate video putting it all back together in as much detail as possible. Or we'll join it on, one or the other, I haven't decided yet. Make it up as we go. Not all too planned, it's just another job that I don't really want to do that I thought I can show you how you could do it. So on this one, first one off, should be the last one back on, the spring on the come out. Yeah, you know, you get that. It's want to come out. That's all right. It'll come out. Okay, so left sides, we'll just go lay it down. Left side. Look, you know, there's probably a proper procedure on what order to remove and refit these. This isn't proper, this is just my procedure. Okay, because a lot of stuff I make it up, do it my way. Clean around, as I said, and the stuff we learnt in the trade was from the older blokes before us. So we're going to undo that clip. Hopefully we'll get this one apart quicker than the other side. Same deal as the other side, you know. The flat plate that hooked onto the brake shoe, which is for the handbrake. In case you didn't figure that, that's for the handbrake. The rotor goes over the top. Sorry, shouldn't say that because a lot of people have got no idea, right? So on the rear, every car is different. So on the Prados, handbrake shoe assembly that goes inside the disc rotor, which acts as a drum. That's your handbrake. Requires a lot less pressure on a drum brake assembly to hold it from turning. Requires a lot more on a disc. Some handbrake setups with the discs, the calipers and the pads, and they have a mechanism in the back of the caliper which it requires a lot more pressure to stop it from slipping. So not always the best option. Can be better than this filling up with mud option as well though, so you know, just depends what you prefer. But this is what you've got if you've got a Prado. So we'll spin it around to the other side. Look, working through that hole there. Yeah, you're not, the hole, you're not bad. Is that one actually, is that going to stay there or is that going to come off there? What do we got? That's just the end with the spring, similar to before. We'll take the adjuster out actually, there you go. So there's the adjuster coming out and that was the orientation, the way it's sat. Okay. Thread on the right. I'll try and disconnect this spring if that works out. We've got that done. Okay, that's that done. So that's your right hand shoe, right, as it sits. Over this side, we've just got this clip. Look, you know, you can get lucky with these. They're not too bad. They're not too good. I'm just trying to be nice to it. You talk nice to it, you might have a hope. Save all the swearing for later, you know. So we're trying to push in and get the pin to turn essentially. Okay, we'll just take that little piece out as well. That's that flat piece with a spring facing toward, that's driver's side, spring facing toward the front. Lay that out as well. So the idea is to get in there and turn it without turning the pin as well. So you've got to kind of keep your pliers open. Sometimes what I do is, I've got to say, I get in with a little flat blade screwdriver around this side. I'll show you that one, right? So, and just get into the slot a little bit. I don't know if it's going to work. You just got to try different things sometimes. When it's not working, try something different. And this time I don't think it's going to work, but try it even through there. No. We'll go back to plan A. Back to plan A. A for apple. A for alpha. Okay. So I'm not showing you the best way to do this. I'm just showing you what's involved and how much I struggle. Which is why you should do it, I think. It's your job. So what the problem we got here at the moment is, I'm trying to go in those there's two little holes on the back of the clip to push it in on the spring and twist it and pop it out. But as I push in, the outside of those are getting pressed shut by the hole, so it's kind of squeezing the pin as well. It'll just happen, you know, but there's no awesome way that I've found that just works. And there's probably someone watching that's going, yeah, I know an awesome way that works. And this isn't it. So here's another option. We got one through the hole, the other one, we can pull the shoe back this way now. So to work at it from this side here, so that's probably another good option. Let's try that one. And you can actually, I'll use the side cutters, as I said earlier. They're good for grip, not for cutting. We don't want to bend or distort or damage anything. Try and get a grip on it. That's not really going to work out either. I think I tried that earlier as well and it didn't work. So we're just trying different things at the moment. So leave the long nose pliers in place. Trying to get it back out of here. It certainly wants to. The funny thing is, when you want to take them off, they want to stay on. But when they want to stay on, you want to take them off. Okay, another option, just using your fingers. Push, turn. Right. You ready? Yep, keep it going that way. Right, here we go. That worked. Right, so you can see we tried a few different things, gave you a few options. It's whatever works for you. But with this one, that's what worked this time. Same deal. Right, that backing clip that hooks into the brake shoe, the spring, and the clip over the top. And you've got to check all those clips out because sometimes they can be damaged. So there's that shoe. We're just going to take the spring off the back. Right. That's the spring that holds the bottom of the two shoes together. Go and chuck that on the bench. Then of course the side cutters to get in between the spring, pull the spring back, and then you just give it a light clamping, and you know that holds the spring as you release it, you know. And that's where, as it came off, left side, that's the orientation. Obviously if you buy a new set of shoes, you need to take off this clip, reuse that, and replace these shoes. Left and right, both sides the same far as I know. I haven't done a lot of them, but otherwise seem to be like that. And this one, I've already cracked those nuts loose as well. So I'll get these bent, that's the bent retaining clip, right, the wobbly bent one we'll call it. And at the front is the straight one. Okay, driver's side. Check out these nuts and bolts. Oh, a bit tight still. And the bottom ones are going to come out, so, well, maybe. Oh, that's a little bit tight. I'm sure I'll get the strainer onto that. Okay, that one's obviously got a bit of dirt and whatever in the thread, so it wants to be a bit of a pain. You get that? Okay, it's almost coming by hand. It's going, you know, the half a turn thing where you go, you're kind of on and off the tools. Come on. Trying to be a pain. Okay, there's that one's definitely finger tight. There's this one at the bottom's coming out. Top one was a bit tight. I'm just going by feel here. I'm not actually looking over there. So, okay, that one should be, yep, finger tight now. Okay, this is a top one as well. Okay, let's see how that goes. Alright, yep. It looks like they're all coming off by hand now, so I'll go ahead and do the bottom two. Okay, bottom two nuts off. And of course we need to get that handbrake cable off out of the way. And have our drain, drop one straight in the drain tray I was going to say. Have our drain tray in place ready for when we pop that axle out. Got the nut out of that drain tray and two more nuts. Okay, now we needed that quarter drive with a 10mm socket. Right, so you should be able to see a fair bit with this one. Okay, get that top bolt. It's in a safe place. Right, there's the other bolt, so they look like that, two little bolts with a little washer. Yeah, that should be pretty well ready to pull out. What we'll do, like the other one, we'll see if this needs to come out fairly easy like the other one did. You know, if it's a problem, we'll just do it as the axle comes out, but no, that came out, so. And then once again, bada boom, bada bing. A little bit of oil leaking out again. There you go. 2 axles out. So we will run through a bit more information. Whoops, trying to make it clean up and I'm making more of a mess than cleaning up. We'll run through it all for you so that, give as much information as we can. Trying to be comprehensive. It is obviously hard to get the camera position right all the time so that you can see everything. Oh, that bearing is very noisy. That's your problem right there. I'll show you that as well, guys, I would have sworn that the noise was coming from the passenger side of the vehicle, right? But it was definitely when you turn to the left, which is loading up the right, which kind of said it was the right, but listen to where it was coming from. This bearing has done almost 400,000 kilometers. It's done a lot of towing. It's done a lot of overloaded work, I know. That seal, obviously, will replace. They're still nice, and if it's not damaged and stuff, you could reuse it. But look, the kit we buy comes with a seal, all genuine OEM parts. So we're going to obviously change that and change this seal as well. It's all going to be happy days. Right, just thought I'd leave that there for you to have a look at. Just give me a sec, and I'll reposition myself to show you what's going on. Alright guys, this is the reason why we've got the axles out, to change the rear axle bearings. Definitely one of them at least was making decent noise. We're going to try and get some quiet here. It's a very windy day, so I'm not sure how it's going to work out, but pretty well I'm going to try and show you what they should sound like. And I suppose, it's hard, neither of these had any play in them, so it was hard to pick. So this one, there's no play in it, but if you spin it, sounds pretty normal to me. There's no real noise or anything. Now let's see if you can hear this one. Hear that? If you can hear noise from it, bearing should be smooth and quiet, okay? Little bit of noise, you might go, oh, it's not too bad. Yeah, it's kind of okay. It's any noise that's on the way. You want, if it's got full of grease and no wear, it's going to be quiet. There's not going to be a sound coming from it. That is very noisy. I'm not sure if you can hear that. That one, not bad. There's probably nothing wrong with that. We're doing the pair anyway. Nearly 400,000 Ks. Plenty of vehicles we see over 400,000 and we haven't heard of these issues, so it's certainly not a common problem. Rear axle bearings, but possibly with vehicles that have done a lot of towing, heavy on the tow ball, maybe overloaded in the car, combination of the two, and off-road, a lot of rough stuff, which this vehicle has done a lot of rough stuff, a lot of towing and a lot of heavy being overloaded. Of course, something's got to give up, and when it comes to loading and GVMs and that, it's not all about the tyres, the wheels or the suspension. A lot of it's about the bearing. It's not a massive bearing. They're not small, but they're only what they are, and they're designed to take a certain load. So I'd suggest that the GVM's got a lot to do with the bearing, not just the other parts. Alright, so if you decide you're going to have a crack at replacing your rear axle bearings, look, what we're probably not going to include is changing the actual bearing on the shaft. You need a special tool. It's like a sleeve that goes over the axle, a puller type thing. Not worth investing in for a one-off, so you're probably going to take it either to, look, unfortunately your Toyota dealer is probably going to be equipped with that sort of thing. It's probably only going to be about an hour's labour, shouldn't cost you at their rates about 140 bucks, or a diff specialist or someone that does that sort of work is probably going to charge you a little bit less than that to just pull those two bearings off and press the new ones on. So this is what these are the genuine Koyo bearings, the seals, the O-rings we showed you, and the snap rings that hold the retainer. So they're the parts you need. Look, you could probably reuse some of these, but we suggest, go in there, do it once, do it properly. Genuine parts, Koyo bearings. That's the O-ring we talked about. It's nice and soft. We thought it's probably okay, but you just have a new one. Same as the snap ring, we have a new one. You might even like the original ones better than new ones. Doesn't really matter. Just have spares there. The kits we supply, this is how they come. They come with a new retainer, of course, and a new seal. That's complete to do the whole job properly. If you're interested in those kits, I think look, you know, they're probably going to be $500 or $600 for the pair. All those parts delivered to your door, somewhere around about that mark. But we don't keep them in stock. If it does arise and you want to grab one of those off us, give us a call. You know, 0490 261 013. Obviously, if you're in Australia, that is, because this is something that could probably arise in the future. More of these will probably pop up. I was in someone's car about a month ago, wasn't working on it or looking for any noises. I did notice a noise similar to this noise coming from the rear. It could have, I don't think it was going to be the diff. I think it's going to be an axle bearing. And of course your front wheel bearings on the Prados are the ones that are more common. And we'll probably have a video again replacing those. Pretty straightforward DIY job if you get those pre-assembled hubs off us. If you wanted to get genuine axle seals, these are not genuine, these are from a bearing supplier. If you want to get genuine axle seals, I'll give you the part number. It's 90310580003. You can double check that, but that should be the correct part number for those rear seals. You can see the part number for the retainer, and obviously the bearings are genuine or Koyo, whatever, same thing. Do not bother using cheap Chinese bearings, otherwise you'll be doing this again more often than you'd like to be. Alright guys, I'm not sure if there's any more to this video, but I'll end this one there. If it is, you know the deal. Have a nice day. Thanks for watching. If you haven't subscribed, make sure you do, because if you haven't subscribed and put notifications on, you won't be notified. We'll have another video putting it all back together. So we'll swap over these bearings on the axles, the pulling, pressing thing. Once that's done, we'll try and do a more comprehensive video putting it all back together. And fingers crossed for me that I'll remember where it all goes, eh? Alright guys, thanks for watching. See ya. Hey guys, thought I better show you this as well. And this is what happens with seals. We're going to compare the pair. The other seal had already been replaced. But look, this is what happens with seals, not just here. This happens with a few seals, which is why with the front wheel bearing kit we supply that other inner seal. Because this is what happens, right? See the rubber there? It's tough stuff. They're made by NOK seals, supply for Toyota for a lot of their seals. And they are really good seals. Look, it's done, you know, nearly 400,000 Ks. This seal has never been changed. What would have happened next? This wasn't actually leaking, but it would have been leaking soon. And then the oil goes through the bearing, washes the grease out, and you know, another 20, 30,000 Ks later down the road, you'll start to get a bit of play in the bearing, and then probably the bearing will go noisy, that sort of thing. Or you're getting a bit of free lubrication, so maybe the bearing will be okay. But look, you'll certainly get play in it, and it will wear. To prevent it, it's probably not a bad idea to replace these seals as prevention, but it would seem a bit odd to go in there at 300,000 and change the seals as prevention and not worry about the bearing. So look, maybe it's not worth doing as prevention. I'm just thinking out loud. But this is what happens. The rubber of the seal actually wears through, and there's a spring in behind there, as you can see there. I can't touch it because I've got one holding a camera and one holding a torch, so you can see what's going on. I'd like to have a play with it and show you what's going on. Hopefully you get the picture. There's that one little spot there where the rubber's actually worn through where the spring's pulling on the seal to stop it from leaking, to keep the tension on. That's where the seals wear through. I've seen it before, and obviously, you know, the spring's going to fall out of place. The spring actually rubs on the axle then and can damage the axle, which would make it be difficult to not have an oil leak later. So just be aware of that. If you hear any weird squealing noises and that you don't think are your brakes, sometimes there can be oil inside the drum or on the rear rotors and whatever with a little leak started, so try and get onto it early. Obviously give it all a good clean up and change the seals. Anyway, I just wanted to show you that. One other really important thing I wanted to show you is how the seals wear, not only how it's worn and the springs popped out. And look, I just gave the seal a wipe to show you what I'm going to show you now. So it's important, we've got to go both sides. Now I've got to try and hold this still. If you have a look at that rubber surface of that seal, see how it's just smooth? It's smooth, there's no lines on there. You can actually see where it's worn through, where that spring pulls on the seal. Right about the middle of the picture now, but see along to the right on that black rubber, it's just smooth, okay? That's not how seals are meant to look. Let's go over the other side and I'll show you how they're meant to look. Okay, so don't worry too much about, there's a bit of mess around on this seal and a bit of oil. We haven't drained this diff oil. It's a bit of a, do it different this time and see what happens. What we'll do is pop these seals out and let it drain for a while we change over the bearings, and hopefully most of it's drained out enough to get out of our way and stop causing problems. Otherwise what we'll do is we will drain a little bit of the diff oil out. It was recently changed, so it's clean, as you can see, nice and clean. So we sort of don't want to waste it, but anyway, see this seal compared to the other one. See, this one's got little tiny little lines. Let me try and hold it still for you. See those tiny little lines on the seal? And you'll notice they face both ways. Some face one way, one face the other, 90 degrees different to each other, sort of on a 45-degree angle. When you see that, if they all face one way, generally the seal, it matters which side it goes on. There's a left and right. When it's like this, it's kind of like a dual purpose thing. It'll be the same seal either side. That part number I gave you for the rear axle seal, you'll probably find it's the same on both sides. Those little lines are designed to help push the oil back in, so you know, if it started to come out, as the axle's turning, it will push the oil, and kind of a bit like a propeller, I suppose, you know, push the oil back over those and back in. So the point I wanted to make, this seal's been replaced before, and this bearing, which is the good one. All right, so one got replaced because the seal leaked, similar to what's happened on the other side, the way that seal gave way. So this one got replaced and the bearing got replaced. That's why that bearing's okay. Now, the seal wasn't leaking, but the bearings failed, so both bearings are getting changed in both seals. But I wanted to point out, this seal's not that old. You can clearly see the lines on there that are going to help make it work, and the very old one is all smooth, the lines are worn off, so allowing it to possibly leak shortly. Between the wear, the spring coming through, and the lines, that other seal was destined to leak any time now. Anyway guys, hope that helps. That is going to conclude this video. Don't worry about the colour, that's just a bit of grease there to help prevent corrosion and rust and stuff. That's all going to get cleaned up, new seals, happy days. I hope this has been a help to you. Remember to subscribe so that you see the video putting it all back together. Thanks for watching, see ya.